Hello and welcome to Eye on Oakland. I'm Chuck Moss, your host, coming you to the magic of, it's not really Zoom, it's StreamYard, but it's the same thing. It's remote, but we've got a great guest. We're going to talk with, taking a break from the usual parade of the politicos here. We have Kelly Cobb, who's the owner and president of the Birmingham Woodward Avenue icon, the Hunter House Hamburgers. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. It is, of course, the iconic establishment at Woodward, north of Maple in beautiful downtown Birmingham, across from the equally iconic Dairy Mat. And the full disclosure is, I love your onion rings. So let's move on. Though. I'm going to question, how did you come to own the local tradition?
Well, it's been in my family since 1982. My grandparents, Elle and Martha Papazian, bought it in 82. And it was run by my family. By them, they actually worked the counter. My grandmother, Martha, was the grill. She did all the books. She did everything. They ran it 6 days a week together. And my grandfather, Al, worked the counter and served people in the community for until 1996, really, when my grandmother passed away from cancer. And so after that, it stayed in my family, moved to the next generation. My uncle ran it for a short time, and then my mom took it over. And back in, I guess, 2012, 2013, I moved back to Michigan. I had grown up here, obviously, and went to the University of Michigan, but I moved to Washington, D.C. And my mom begged me to come back and help grow the business and slowly take it over from her. And I did. And I've been officially an owner in the company since, I think, 2019. But I've been working for the company for many years prior to that.
How does it feel to have a business that's not just a business, but basically a legacy? I mean, if you wanted to, you couldn't turn the Hunter House into the Hunter House Vegan and Yoga Center. I mean, how do you work and update and keep fresh what's basically an icon?
Well, I think of it like we're in the preservation business, and it's almost like running a nonprofit sometimes, where the cause is something greater than just serving food. I was once asked, "Can you describe your concept?" By somebody in the restaurant industry, and I said, "This isn't like your average new restaurant that pops up where you describe a concept, some conceptual idea of something you want in your head. This is Hunter House is made up of the generations of people that have gone there." From the simplicity of the food, from the nostalgia that people have that they've carried. So Hunter House is not just an idea where we're going to present some new concept out there. It's a history and it's a story, and it's made up of a collection of stories of literally the hundreds of people that eat there every single day. And so that's why I love doing what I do, because I get emails almost every day from people around the country. I got one a few days ago from somebody who said, "I moved to South Carolina 37 years ago, and I dream about your food. Can you just give me a recipe or some ingredients? I'd love to, be able to make it where I live." 37 years later, this person decides to go on our website, find it, thinking about the memories that they have there, and shoot me a note to say thank you for staying open. And so that's how I think about the restaurant. I don't think about it like I'm starting a new concept, like a taco stand, or I'm going to open a vegan restaurant and here's the concept. It's so much more of that, and it's almost out of my control, right? It's in the hands of the people who go there, who lived there, who grew up eating there. I once met somebody a couple of years ago who was about 45, 50 years old. And he literally started tearing up and said, "My first memory is eating a cheeseburger while sitting on the floor of your restaurant." And so that's really what I think of when I think of the Hunter House. It's not your average restaurant. That's
well, Hunter House, it isn't just a burger joint. I want to say, I mean, not to be prejudiced here, but there is a McDonald's a few miles south on Woodward. If it closed, it wouldn't leave much of a hole. Okay, I mean, nobody would. But the Hunter House is Woodward Avenue, and of course, Woodward Avenue is an icon of its own. And so, you are inextricably part of the part of what is the local institution. Now, I will say this: you have made changes in the historic menu. You have added onion rings, and I'm going to just tell you right now that I almost got in a fist fight with Bloomfield Township trustee Michael Shostak, who swears by the tater tots. And oh no, so you have dueling fan clubs here. But how do you make changes and freshen it up? And because last time I was in there, which was last week, it didn't feel old and musty and like the old days. It felt fresh.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. We've made a few changes to the menu. We upgraded our milkshakes a few years ago, about 5 years ago, to make them more premium quality ice cream shakes. We've added sides like tater tots and onion rings to the menu, and a lot of those changes were made because we had the ability to make them by changing out some of our equipment. Because the old Hunter House really only had some simple space to fry food in, and when we were able to upgrade our fryers because they died, we added some more menu items that allowed us to do that. But we haven't changed much really at all. I mean, our meat is from the same meat packer that we basically opened the store with. We use the same bun guy, and we have for years, the same buns for decades. So all of our ingredients are very, very local, actually. Our pickles are even made in Detroit. Our meat packers in Dearborn. Our buns are made in Detroit. Everything is part of the community, and we buy them from small businesses deliberately. So our meat packer is a small business, for example. And that allows us to stay very much connected to the community as well. But we don't make a lot of changes to the menu. And part of the beauty of that is the simplicity of our menu. And you can enjoy something and find comfort in really simple foods. And that I think warms people's hearts in a certain way. Our burger has like 4 ingredients in it. It's really that simple. And so if you can do that and you can succeed at that, why change it up? Why change it up? We've added hot dogs over the years, and we have conies, and we've made some fun sandwiches. We allow our staff to come up with fun we call them specials, and they're sort of off-menu items. Some we've added to the menu, like the Robcat Honey Burger, which has barbecue and bacon and 2 onion rings on the burger. But generally speaking, everything is made. We do those specials with things we already have in the store. And we have not added anything really outside of the norm because we don't need to. And also because we don't have enough space to cook it all as it is. So if we added something, we don't have room for new equipment in the store. It's so small, and we're already overwhelmed at the grill, and we have the largest grill that we can fit in there. So we've kept it simple.
Well, it's well that I was able to get in. I know you have the outside seating, of course, but when it's winter, that's a little tough. So you have been you've been featured on food shows, won awards. Did Guy Gordon come by? I don't know. And if he isn't, why not?
We have had a lot of local celebrities come through, and there are a lot of people. Jason Carr, who's been on part of TV and now has his own live stream show. He has been a fan for years and years and years. He's in there all the time. A lot of sports figures come through. Chad Smith, who's with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the band, he grew up around here. His mom lives around here, and he comes back all the time. And when he comes back, we're the first place that we go. We've had a number of politicians that have come through.
Yeah.
And I mean, they come through all the time. My most famous story or fun story was, it was a long time ago, but you may recall, Chuck, you'll recall, there was a debate in, I think it was 2008 in Detroit amongst the Republican presidential candidates. And Rick Perry infamously forgot one of the 3 departments that he would eliminate.
I was there for that. I was there. It was at Oakland U.
Yes.
And he had to name 3, and they all started with E's. And the crowd, we were all chanting, energy, energy, energy. I was there for that.
And famously, he went on to run the Department of Energy.
Yes, well,
but he left Hunter House and went to that debate. So I made up a story in my own mind that he loved the food so much that it distracted him for the rest of the night and he couldn't remember his own lines. But we've had a number of politicians come through, a number of celebrities come through. A lot of the sports teams that come in from out of town that play downtown with basketball or football or whatever, they stay at hotels in Birmingham very frequently. And so we get a lot of people from around the country who are athletes, professional athletes that come through and eat as well. So it's been fun to see a lot of faces and names. Our staff is often, they'll have them sign their receipt and then they'll ask for a second signature somewhere else. But that's been part of the joy of being an institution like that, is getting to see and meet a lot of people from around the country that are famous. And like you said, we've had a lot of awards. We were, top 10 burger in America. We were the #1 burger in Michigan from, I think it was Paula Deen magazine and Food Network magazine. So we've built a good reputation. Our first write-up actually, and it doesn't get more Detroit than this, our first write-up ever, I think was in the 80s. And it was in Car and Driver magazine. And it's because all the auto execs used to stop at Hunter House on the way to work or on the way home. And it became sort of a place for car culture. And if you go there at night in the summer, there are cars, fancy cars, hot rods, classic cars, all parked throughout our lot. And so that tradition stayed the same. But the first review we ever got, doesn't get more Detroit than that, was in Car and Driver magazine.
Car and Driver magazine. Well, I do know one, you mentioned politicians, who did a short campaign, do-it-yourself video, sitting at one of your picnic tables, although was very careful not to put any Hunter House logo to identify in it, and that was me. So it was okay. And we had to be sure because we didn't want to, get involved in that. But we had it was sitting there and the cars going back and forth. This was one of the good ones, actually. So I had to do more. I had to do podcasts, sitting here. But anyway, do you find that you're a local celebrity? You're the Hunter House guy?
No, I think people really love the brand in the Hunter House, and I really try to keep the focus on that. I love doing, media like this show when people ask. We've been on all the major news channels as well, and we've been written up in the paper. But I don't consider myself a celebrity at all. I just try and keep the place running and keep the people happy that come in, and try to keep those memories alive or create new ones. And so it's really not about me at the end of the day. When I tell people I own Hunter House, it's one of my favorite things because they kind of freak out for a minute and then they tell me a story. They tell me a story about when they ate there, or they tell me a story about, a lot of kids go to high school and hang out there. So I get a lot of stories that way, and that's really my favorite part. But me, myself, I enjoy being the man behind the curtain,
Well, it's quite a good curtain. And so we're going to take a break here. We are talking to Kelly Cobb, who is the owner of the Hunter House, which, as we know, iconic Woodward Avenue. We can talk about Woodward Avenue culture and a lot more besides. When we come back, we're going to take a break. Chuck Moss here on Eye on Oakland. Don't go away. We will be right back. Welcome back to Eye on Oakland. I'm Chuck Moss, your host, coming remotely. And this is my house. Unfortunately, yes, it needs to be cleaned. What doesn't? If you hear dogs barking in the background, that would be Archie the wiener dog and his friend Pepper, another wiener dog. When you want to talk about wieners, we're going to talk about burgers. We're going back to Kelly Cobb, owner-president of the Hunter House Hamburgers, which is, of course, the iconic, everybody will use the word icon, but it is generally overused, but it is not overused. In this case, Hunter House. Welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Got a question for you now. There was a few years ago a talk that the Hunter House was going to be, torn down and the property used for a hotel or office buildings. And, we got lots of hotels and office buildings, but only one Hunter House. How's that situation going?
It's a very complicated situation. It's kind of a mess. About 17 years or so ago, my uncle sold the property unbeknownst to my grandfather, and effectively forged his signature on the deed over to him, and then he sold it. And he sold it to a developer with the promise that they would recreate Hunter House in the bottom floor of a Hilton hotel with parking and everything that the Hunter House would need to operate. That ended up collapsing. And since then, we've been stuck in limbo, whereby we have an agreement that's recorded with the county that's effectively a deed restriction on how the property can be used. But we have not had a developer or anyone come through that is really willing to build or able to build what we need in order for Hunter House to continue to operate there. So a few years ago, someone purchased the property. They have the deed, but we have the contract and the agreement, the deed restrictions on what can be done with our property. But we've been going back and forth for years, and unfortunately, the agreement is not met. And so they're not providing us what we need to operate, and they're not providing us with what is in plain letter language in the agreement that they're required to. So it's a really troubling situation, frankly. It's been very stressful for my family and I, but we know what our rights are, and our interest is in, we didn't set this up. We effectively took over from my uncle after this deal was done. And so we're working with the best situation that we have to try to solve the problem and make sure Hunter House in some form in that building, on that property, or elsewhere can continue to exist. And right now we're just trying to make clear to the property owner that these are our rights, this is what we need. And the beautiful thing about it is the completely unprecedented amount of support that the community has given us. It was the #1 read story in hometown for Birmingham Bloomfield Hills a couple of years ago, was a story about the situation at Hunter House. And we get notes every single day. Customers, whenever I'm in there and they figure out that I'm the owner, they start asking questions. People are very, very supportive of us. They don't want to see us go anywhere. And we love hearing that. My hope is that we avoid litigation. That's what I've been trying to do, is just make sure that the agreement we have is met. The city commission, unfortunately, in November of last year, they signed a lease with the deed holder to develop the property into a larger building. And they did so effectively in violation of the agreement that we have. And so we're now up against the city, who the administration doesn't want us there. They want a big building. And we're up against the developer that owns the deed. And so we're up against that. And what we have is a set of rights that are enshrined in an agreement that is recorded with the county, that is tied to the land. And we're going to fight to uphold those rights no matter what it takes, in order to make sure that the community whose interests we serve can continue to have Hunter House be a part of it for the foreseeable future in some form or another. So it's very complicated, but it is what it is.
No, that's what it is. Well, I wondered about that to begin with. It seems like an awfully small footprint for a big hotel. The Daxon is bigger. The, obviously, they all are. But, what do I know? City commission majorities and city administrations change. I'll just say that.
They do.
Hang in there. All right. Well, now I'm going to, we're talking about moving, with the times. I know that there is a Hunter House food truck.
Yes, there is. So we've had, we actually opened our first food truck. We were like the first people to do it in about 16 years ago, maybe. And it was a trailer. And we designed it because we thought the building would go away as part of this development. So as a temporary holdover until we could have the building be rebuilt inside of the future hotel, built this trailer to park and do events. We ended up, that never happened, but we have the trailer for years and years and years. And then we built a new food truck out of a 1973 GMC motor coach, which is like a classic motor home from the 70s. And we made it into a food truck. It's so cool. It's so retro. And that has been on the road for probably about 5 or 6 years. And then a few years ago, we built another food truck that's what's parked behind the store now. And that is a classic food truck. It's designed to look effectively like our restaurant. It's all white with the hamburgers across the top and a window. We took a picture of the inside of the store, like you're looking in the window of the store. And that's primarily our food truck now because it can do 2 events in a day, back to back. It has a lot of capacity, and we get booked all summer long. Every weekend we're booked. So we've had at one point 3 food trucks, and now we're down to 2. And the retro RV, being a 1973 motor coach, it finds itself in and out of the shop a little too much, but we try our best to keep it alive, and we bring it out for Dream Cruise so that people can get served out of Dream Cruise.
1973. I mean, that's only 50 years ago, half a century. I mean, if you were in 1973 with something from 1923, that I think about that as a thought exercise. Yeah, that would be very weird. Now you say the Dream Cruise, obviously the Dream Cruise. All right, that's Detroit's Mardi Gras. You always play a big role. What's on for this summer?
What's on for this summer?
Yeah,
the same thing we do every year. When we used to have tents all up front, and we'd throw a party. We'd have bands, and we'd have Elvis, and we'd have all this stuff. And when I came in, we made the system a lot more efficient, so we could serve food a lot faster. I focused on that to make sure the line stayed shorter, and that's been really successful in helping people get through and eat. When COVID hit, we couldn't put the tents up, and we couldn't have Elvis and the bands and the people dancing in the parking lot and watching the cars go by. So we skipped that, but we were determined to hold Dream Cruise as normal. So we put our food trucks outside, and we just started serving out of the food trucks and put a fence up, and people could pull in and park still. And that's actually been very successful, because in prior years, cruisers couldn't eat there. There was nowhere to park. We'd get people walking, of course, and we'd have the party there, but we couldn't get any cruisers there. So now we've got a system where we have place for people to eat. We have tables out in front. We have places for people to stand, and they gather in the lots around us. But we can also have people come in and park and drive into the lot. And we've got a really fast system down now where we can crank out food from our 2 food trucks, and it makes for a much better party than in the past. So that's what we do. That's what we've done for a few years now. That's what we plan to do. We've got music always on. We've got a crowd in the street. We get all the funny and cool cars pull into us and park. Last year we had the jet skis that were on motorcycles. They put them on a jet ski over a motorcycle. We had the Batmobile there.
The Batmobile. Everybody saw the Batmobile last year.
Yeah. The Batmobile was there for quite some time last year. And a lot of these classic car guys, it's really cool, because we once did a private party on the food truck with a guy who owned multiple old cars, and I'm talking 20s and 30s. And there's just such a nexus between the Hunter House and the people who own these classics. So they come through and they park and they leave their car and they pop their hood open, and the people are eating and walking around and checking out the cars in the lot. And so you get a lot of classic cars in there now, and it's almost like its own mini auto show for classics, while you get to have a slider at the same time. So it's a really fun time, and we love being part of Cruise. We really do.
I'll have to stop by. I now have a classic car. It was my 1994 Chrysler LeBaron that I bought in 1994. And I remember the first time I drove it in the Dream Cruise, everybody laughed at me. It's like, get out there.
Now you're good, Chuck.
How do you get a classic car, buy a car, wait 25 years? And so I'll take it. Now, it doesn't like to go real slow for very long. It overheats, but I'll bring it in now. Yeah. So now I know you have 4 children. Are you raising them up in the business?
They eat Hunter House multiple times a week.
Wow.
They're all young. They're 8 and under, and you know, they love Hunter House. They love the milkshakes. They love eating chili. You know, my daughter is like chili cheese fry fanatic. The boys just smash the burgers. So it's fun having the business be a part of their lives. It was a part of my life when I was young. It's my first job I ever had. And you know, I was young when I started working there, and it's a real good thing to be able to pass down if they're interested. But in the meantime, you know, they come in with me. They kind of know all the employees. The employees all know them. They're part of the family. We don't say employees. We call it the Hunter House family. All of the people who work with us. So they're part of the family too. And you know, one day if they want to take it over, they take it over. We'll see where it goes.
Always good to keep the generations going. But
Right.
yeah, I'm a big fan of the chili cheese fries, which obviously I shouldn't be, but I am. Now we're talking about, you know, obviously not you know, McDonald's, you know, but I like you know, genuine Detroit style burgers. I mean, it worked for pizza. This could be the genuine Detroit style, you know, burger. What about you're gonna like franchise it or anything, or is it enough having one?
Well, it's enough having one. We've opened a store in Ann Arbor. We had for a few years, but that was a really hard market for us, and
Oh
it's a really
yeah,
hard market for every
yeah.
restaurant owner. I found out after we did that. We have a partnership with United Wholesale Mortgage, where we're a vendor up there on their campus, and so they serve burgers just to their employees. They're all big fans of Hunter House, but we really, you know, we really love just having what we know works. And, you know, maybe one day down the road, there's a franchise opportunity, but there are so many places around Detroit that do the similar thing. I think of it's like mafia families, like, you know, there's Greens and there's Bates and there's Telway, and we all kind of serve kind of similar food. We all opened around the same time. There's a lot of little differences here and there, but we're all very much part of our communities, and we're beloved individually. And so we really like being a part of that. And I think my worry is, you know, you get outside of Detroit, like I opened in Ann Arbor. We had to, you know, slider to the rest of the world means just a shrunken down cheeseburger. They don't get caramelized onions, smash the meat into it, steam the bun on top. They don't get that. So we had to explain to people even in Ann Arbor what that meant. And so I really love keeping it local, where everybody already knows what you're getting when you walk in the door.
Well, they got to call it Detroit style something, because if we can, look, I never knew there was a Detroit style pizza until a couple of years ago. I just bought pizza. Well, anyway, it's wonderful to see the Hunter House in its current form on Woodward Avenue. It is, like I said, it is iconic. Woodward Avenue, of course, as well. And Dream Cruise, and appreciate you and your generation now picking up the torch and bringing it along. It makes Birmingham, you know, Birmingham more like Birmingham, not like everywhere USA. So thank you. And I will put in a shameless plug here: Hunter House Hamburgers, and especially the onion rings. Woodward and Maple, just north of Maple. You can't miss it. Talking to Kelly Klobb, the owner-president of Hunter House Hamburgers. Thank you for joining us here on Eye on Oakland.
Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate it.
And thank you to all of you. And we'll see you right here on Eye on Oakland.